Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and you might be like, dang, this title either better be goddamn clickbait or it's actually scary. Now ladies and gentlemen, yes, China has attacked the US Navy, ladies and gentlemen, and it comes to cyber attacking. Yes. Now you might be like, whoa, maybe it's not as serious as you think. To understand, cyber attacks are pretty much the first wave of anything. It starts with keyboard warriors and God forbid it'll end with nuclear weapons, okay? Now you might be like, whoa, Muda, this is some fear-mongering of the highest degree. No, I'm not here to fear-monger you. Listen, at the end of the day, you and I will become worm food, okay? The world will come to an end, all right? Fallout 5 will finally release, for realsies. But you know what? You can't live your life in fear, okay? So you gotta live every day like your last. You gotta smile, you gotta have comfort in the friends and the loved ones around you before it all comes to an end, ladies and gentlemen. But it will come to an end. Just have a fun time doing it. Anyways, without all the depressing stuff right there, let's get into the meat and potatoes. So, of course, the United States Navy was hit by Chinese hackers. Now, yes, China denies the actual accusations. Of course they do. What, are they going to tell you? Yeah, it was actually us, guys. We're the ones messing with your military. No, that's a declaration of war right there. China has denied all kinds of hacking accusations. The highly unprofessional report, a patchwork with a broken chain of evidence, has been observed by China's foreign ministry spokesperson, Mao Ning. Yeah, of course they absolutely didn't agree with what the United States said. But it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Now, being the fact that the Chinese government ain't suing me for whatever I'm saying, I'm not even afraid to defame them. I 100% believe this was the Chinese government running a hack of this caliber. Yeah, we've talked about nation-state hacks before on this channel, and everything that we're about to discuss here pretty much has the tells of it. So effectively, what had happened? Well, there was an organization known as Volt Typhoon. Now, Volt Typhoon is a name that is given to a Chinese-backed nation-state hacking group. So effectively, what a nation-state hacking group is they pretty much have unlimited budgets, they have unlimited talent, and they operate with so much protections that even if they get caught, they're never going to get turned over or extradited to the US government. The US hacks other countries, Russia hacks other countries, China hacks countries, everyone hacks everyone. And there are just some keyboard warriors that have impunity to attack anybody all day, every day. So to understand what had happened over here was Microsoft had discovered that Volt Typhoon, this organization, was actually running what is known as the living off the land attacks, okay? So to understand, Microsoft assesses with moderate confidence, that this Volt Typhoon campaign is pursuing development of capabilities that could disrupt critical communications infrastructure between the United States and Asia region during future crises. Yeah, that sounds scary, doesn't it? Ominous even. Now, to give you a quick idea, from what it's pretty much been told is Microsoft mentioned that Volt Typhoon had breached government, manufacturing, communications, and IT organizations in Guam. Now, for those of you who don't know what Guam is, let me bring up a Google Earth showcase. Guam is effectively the United States staging point, kind of like a military base. And you know what's just a little bit east of Guam? West of Guam? Well, it would be a country known as Taiwan. Now, Taiwan is a free country, in my opinion, not that of the Chinese, and Taiwan pretty much sits not too far off from mainland China. Now, Taiwan's only strength is they're kind of allied with us. We pretty much have some, declaration that if shit hits the fan, we're going to come out and protect you. Now, despite all of that, China is horny for this land, okay? They want Taiwan. So, of course, if, God forbid, any future military arises, the staging point closest to Taiwan may appear to have its critical infrastructure actually penetrated by the Chinese hackers, and that should scare you. But, of course, it's glad that we figured out this was happening, because once you figure out you've been hacked, you can then do the long, grueling process of actually reversing and figuring out just how bad things really are. So the way that this worked was something known as living off of the land. So for actual hacks, we've talked about man-in-the-middles, we've talked about ransomwares, we've talked about a bunch of different attacks. But a living off the land attack is actually quite different. So what is a living off the land attack? It is as simple as it sounds, okay? Basically, you are using binaries, programs that are actually built within operating systems, harmless programs for nefarious systems. We've talked about fileless malware, where literally you don't even need to send actual malware, you don't even need to send actual files, you literally use tools within Windows, within operating systems, for nefarious reasons. So in fact, the NSA over here actually describes it like this. The actual living off the land, this allows the actor to evade detection by blending in with normal Windows systems and network activities. It avoids endpoint detection and response products that would alert on the introduction of third-party applications to the host. Again, because there is no third-party application in malware, the detection gets very difficult. They use actual tools such as WMIC, NTDS-Util, and NetSH, and PowerShell. These are all bundled within Windows. So when you see activity from this, even if you're logging it and watching over your network, it looks like actual standard network activity. And how hackers use these tools very carefully to obfuscate, minimize their detection can make this absolutely difficult to discover. I'm telling you, it can take you weeks if you're very, very lucky. Usually it'll take you months. Sometimes it can take you years, and in some really, really unfortunate cases, you may never even be able to figure out that you have been hacked. That's how bad this ends up getting. Now, before you start living off the land and using tools and functions built within operating systems to actually infect or attack systems, you have to find a way in, the initial access point. And it seems in this case, it was actually through devices, the FortiGuard devices themselves. So FortiGuard, which is a subset of Fortinet, is actually a company that, again, deals with these kind of products, deals with cybersecurity. And you might be like, damn, it must be bad for them. At the end of the day, I can't blame them. You can't blame anybody. There's always going to be an entry point and a weak point that a talented hacker or hacking group takes advantage of. And unfortunately, these Fortinet devices were where it was eventually brought in. And the way that they did it was they effectively leveraged any privileges that these devices had started to give away. They extracted credentials from an Active Directory account and then basically used those credentials to authenticate with other, users, other entry points on that network. And of course, Microsoft looked at a bunch of devices that were manufactured by Asus, Cisco, D-Link, Netgear, Zyxel, a lot of these organizations, a lot of these devices unfortunately had entry points that these Volt Typhoon hackers used to breach through. Once they had actually gotten in, the next step was to actually use command lines, hands-on command lines, to actually start exploring the network. So generally, they would pull up command lines, they would pull up PowerShells, and they would just start looking at what was in the network, what they could find, what was important, and if they found anything important in this situation, they would then bundle it up and then send it silently out of the network back home to a server in China or whatever for Volt Typhoon. And once they had gotten in, it appeared to Microsoft that they very rarely even used any actual viruses, malware, or whatever. Again, they literally used these commands to just peek around the network until, again, they could find what they wanted. It really shows you that the people behind it, A, understand how to actually use these living off the land techniques. A lot of these lol bins, which are living off the land binaries, those same programs I was talking about, to leverage their actual exploration on a network. By doing this very silently, very stealthily, you could again be in there for days, weeks, months, years, all just to grab whatever you wanted and send out back home. And again, it's really lucky that Microsoft caught onto this and a lot of teams actually looked into it. Because if they hadn't, God forbid there was some serious war going on, Guam, or again, these critical US infrastructures may have unfortunately been taken down, would have caused severe issues in communications, and would have given the Chinese a massive advantage on an actual battlefield or in actual operations with boots on the ground. That's scary shit right there. So when Microsoft had looked into how they were getting access into compromised systems, they would use valid credentials they would grab anyways. And in some cases when they couldn't, they would operate proxies on compromised systems to basically facilitate access. And they did this, again, with built-in commands like NetSH. So again, this is a very talented group of individuals that were able to hide their activities long enough for them to actually grab information, grab some really sensitive shit, and send it back over. Now, of course, it's great that Microsoft discovered it because, like I said before, the only way to go through that long, grueling phase of recovery is to first know that you've actually been compromised. Now, hopefully nothing serious happens in the next several weeks until obviously a full thorough analysis of this is done and things have actually been plugged up. What is unfortunate in this situation is kind of the slap on the wrist behavior. Now, I'm not saying we should go to war with China. Obviously, that is scary. That is the end of the world scenario right there. But this is a situation where I do believe what China has done is an act of actual warfare. Because it's not just the United States saying this. There are Canadian agencies, there are agencies in the entire Five Eyes that have actually made statements. And when the Five Eyes get together to talk about this shit, it is genuinely serious. Now, of course, obviously, this isn't information that should pertain to you, but if you want to protect yourself from things like this, obviously, alongside having credentials that can be grabbed, you got to have stronger multi-factor authentication. You got to have security keys. You got to have authenticators. You got to have situations where you don't even need the password to sign in. You got to have expiration rules for passwords that are older after a certain period of time. You got to reduce your attack service. You got to look at all these situations and you got to minimize every point of attack, especially when it comes to fileless malware. And even then, you are still buck naked to the entire world out there. Again, cybersecurity and protecting yourself is effectively a never-ending game of cat and mouse. And this is one of those situations where I wanted to truly look into this and get the entire situation out perfectly. I wanted to really encapsulate just the serious and almost devious nature of this hack as well. What Volt Typhoon did was showcase that the Chinese, or really any of these nation-state people, have gotten to the point where the work that they are doing is not only a declaration of war, but it's also incredibly sophisticated in this case. And we're kind of lucky that Microsoft and a few of these guys who work around the clock, barely getting paid enough for their service, by the way, have managed to uncover this and stop what could have been a potentially or severely catastrophic situation down the road. Now, what is China planning with Taiwan and Guam and a lot of these military sites? I don't know. But whatever they're planning, the fact that they're actually hitting the Navy and they're actually hitting US critical military infrastructure is fucking scary. And you know what? From somebody that pretty much watches a crap ton of those emergency alert scenarios, I hope to God I never see an emergency alert scenario based on the shit that I'm talking about today. I'm not even joking at all. This stuff absolutely gives me the worst anxiety that I've ever seen. But ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and hey, the world will come to an end one day, okay? It is what it is. But at least we can cover every aspect of it until time comes to an end, right? Shit, I don't know. Whatever, let's be hopeful. Nothing bad's ever gonna happen. You know what? Somewhere down the years, we're all gonna laugh at this entire situation like a small little stupid joke at the water cooler. That being said though, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like it if you dislike it. Hopefully you learned something. I am